be upon you, my brothers and sisters. Who is the person who is deprived in Ramadan and God will not forgive him? What are the reasons for that and how can we win? In Ramadan, with mercy, forgiveness, and freedom from the fires, this is the subject of this video. Watch the video until the end and subscribe to my channel. You will receive all the benefits in the coming videos. God willing, from the greatest God, has bestowed his blessing upon his faithful servant by allowing them to reach the month of Ramadan. God has favored this blessed month over all other months and days. Every year this month, which God made fasting one of the five pillars of Islam, it is month of fasting. It is the day of resurrection. It is a month in which mercy descends. Sins and bad deeds are forgiven, and rewards and good deeds are multiplied in it. It is a month whose beginning is mercy, whose middle is forgiveness, and whose end is freedom from sin. Because of the fire of the month in which the noble Quran was revealed, the Prophet, may God bless him and grant his peace, used to give good news to his companions, may God be pleased with them of his coming, because of the many goodness, virtues, and blessing that is contained. The great months came, so he used to say to them, the month of Ramadan has come to you, a blessed month. God has enjoined upon you its fasting, in which the gates of paradise will be opened, and the gates of the hell are found certain, and the shackles and the chains are tightened. In it, it is the return of the devil, the shifts of the devils, and in it is a night of Laylat al-Qadr that is better than 1,000 months, which is equivalent to 83 years of deprivation of its goodness. It has been deprived, so whoever catches the month of Ramadan and enters it with sincere intention and correct following will leave it and become one of the decorate, the winners, the happy ones, the winners in this world and the hereafter. On the other hand, everyone who entered the month of Ramadan and insisted on disappointing God was disappointed and lost. He did not strive the worship during it, nor was he keen or hasting to seek the pleasure of God. And the month ended and he was not forgiven for it. On the authority of Abu Hurairah, may God be pleased with him, he said, the Messenger of God, may God's prayers and peace be upon him, said, despite his dissatisfaction, he was disappointed and lost, a man in whose presence I was mentioned, but he did not bless him, despite the nag of a man who had Ramadan and then withdraws before he can be forgiven, and despite the nag of a man whose parents have become old, but they did not admit him to paradise. On the authority of Anas ibn Malik, may God be pleased with him, he said, the Prophet, may God's prayers and peace be upon him, ascending the pulpit 1 degree, he said, Amin. Then he ascended a 2nd degree, he said, Amin. Then he rose for the third time and said, Amin. Then he sat down, and his companion said, as you have believed, he said, Gabriel came to me and said, despite the will of a man, you were mentioned to him, but he did not pray for you. So I said, Amin. And he said, despite the will of a man, he reached out to his parents, but did not support them into paradise. And I said, Amin. He said, against the will of a person, he caught Ramadan and was not forgiven for it. So I said, Amin. And there are people who did not make God accept their fasts, and he will not forgive them during this month. And they are among the ones mentioned by the Prophet Muhammad, may God bless him and grant him peace, in the Holy Hadith, which was narrated on the authority of the Lord of Glory. On the authority of Ibn Abbas, may God be pleased with him, he said, I hear the Messenger of God, may God bless him and grant him peace, saying, I asked the angel Gabriel, what has God done regarding the needs of believers from the nation of Muhammad? May God bless him and grant him peace. He said, God looked at them, pardoned them, and forgave them, except for, they said, who are these for? He said, he is addicted to alcohol, disobedient to his parent, severe ties of kinship, and quarrelsome. It was said, Messenger of God, who is quarrelsome? He said, he is the one who is strict, meaning he who does not speak to his brother for more than 3 days. An alcoholic is considered to be a person who continues to drink alcohol for a long time. During the days of holy months, the person is disobedient to his parents, and represented by the person who disobeys their orders and does not take care of them in their old age and complains about them because of their many questions. As for a severe of ties of kinship is a person who does not communicate with his family and friends, and God mentioned him in Surah Muhammad when he said, "So, would you be able, if you decide to spread corruption in the land and sever your ties of kinship? These are those whom God has cursed and made deaf and blind in their sight. And as for the quarrels, he is a person who interrupts his brother. He does not maintain ties with him while carrying a grudge against him in his heart. And for that reason, he will be one of the sheltered one. I did not realize the loss and disappointment of Ramadan, and it was not forgiven. May God accept fasting and prayer from us and from you. May God bless you and make the paradise is our abode and your abode. May the peace, mercy, and blessing of God be upon you. And see you in the next video, God willing.